There's nothing that quite captured my attention and my imagination the same way that wrestling does. It's the way it made me feel. You can be anything, and it's a combination of anything. Pro wrestling is an art, it's subjective. I was very fortunate that a lot of people gave me different opportunities. It's kind of in another transition phase as we speak right now. He's been like a measuring stick for me because his standard is so high. He makes you wrestle up to him. I wish we got to do so much more of that. And he's like, "Are you ready for the biggest match of your career?" And it blew my mind. I never get sick of talking about that. He didn't tell the whole truth, and I gotta call him out for that.
Ladies and gentlemen, hosted by Coach C, Chris Sanders, this is Best for Business.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. Another episode of Best for Business. I'm pumped for this one. Mike Skyros, thank you so much for joining me.
Dude, it's my pleasure. Obviously, and we'll probably get into this at some point. We've known each other a long time, and I've watched what you've been doing on this podcast, and I think it rules. I'm happy to be a guest.
Thank you for doing this. And yeah, thank you for everything. Like, I was just talking about this with my dad. It's crazy. I was watching you when I was like 12, 13 years old at like Supernova and Outside the Box. I don't even know if they exist anymore, but like, and the fact that now I'm 20 and we get to do something like this, man, thank you for everything.
Dude, thank you. And it's cool, like, it's cool to see someone who was, and you're still a young man. I feel old as hell saying that. You're still a young man, but to see who someone was like a kid in grade school coming to the matches, and now you're a grown man. You're doing all these things for yourself. It's cool, and it's kind of wild to see, like, from this perspective too.
Yeah, I'm pumped for this one. So we talk pro wrestling. I know for you it's a different, you've had a unique path of pro wrestling where you are today. Originally, when it's talking about pro wrestling, what was it about it ultimately that made you want to get involved with it?
Man, it's the way it's a couple things, but ultimately it's the way it made me feel. Like, just watching it, there's nothing that quite captured my attention and my imagination the same way that wrestling does. Like, in wrestling, you can be anything, and it's a combination of anything. Like, and I say that I love sports, but sports can be very one dimensional. I love music. Music can be its own thing. I love movies, but like in wrestling, you can be an actor, you can be a music, you can be a rock star, you can be an athlete. All these things kind of combine together in its own little ball, and nothing else is really like that. It's wild, and the rabbit hole is so deep on it. I'm learning new stuff about it every day. I can't get enough.
What was the age that you finally decided wrestling was something you were going to pursue for loving it for so long?
Um, probably like probably like 15, 16. Like, I was a little later in the game. Like, I liked wrestling. I played like the games and all that, just like everyone else. Me and my friends were suplexing each other in the backyard, but it never really set in that this was something that I really wanted to take a swing at until like later in my teenage years.
I'm curious for you, for someone who's 20 right now, what was your mindset with school and everything? Wrestling, was that completely number one for you?
I knew the importance of getting an education. Like, I was the first person in my family to get a college degree, which I'm still
Nice.
very proud of. And I always recognize the importance of having something like that to use because, you can do a lot of different things in this world, like career wise, but a college degree still holds weight. And I'd say the life skills and like the personal growth that I went through in college is extremely invaluable to me because no matter what direction my career path from what I learned in university takes me, I couldn't imagine trying to navigate these things without uh, the skills I learned from other people, like about myself, that I learned in college.
When you talk about first getting involved in wrestling, I'm curious for you, when you transition into pro wrestling, what are some of the biggest lessons that you learned from your trainers?
There were a couple. So one of the main things is that sometimes things that they teach me would make sense until much later. And there are things that, so I started wrestling school in 2012, and a lot of that stuff just didn't click in my head until maybe the last 2 or 3 years. And one of the most important things too is that there's not one correct way to do anything in wrestling. We have technique to do stuff, and we have ways to do things professionally and safely, but it's it's different for everybody, and especially when it comes to what a good match or a good promo is. Pro wrestling is an art; it's subjective. So what works for one person might not work for another. Like what works for, I'll use an indie example. What works for Ichiban may not work for me, and vice versa.
Yeah. I'm curious when you look at your career. I followed your career for a while, but for you personally, whether it was trainers or mentors, who are some of your biggest influences in wrestling? People that have taught you some of those stuff.
So in terms of people that have personally done a lot for me, I wouldn't be here without Zachary Springate III having his school. I owe a huge debt to that dude. Right after him, I would say Isis Effects, who was the guy that handled the majority of my training after a certain point. I wouldn't be anywhere without that dude. That dude has done so much for me. There are a lot of people with different personal and professional opinions on him, and that's for them to kind of work out. But for me, that dude is the reason why we're speaking today. Like, I wouldn't have done anything worthwhile if it wasn't for that dude. And I gotta, going down the line too, I gotta give credit to Brute Van Slyke. I was talking to someone on a podcast about this recently. Brute Van Slyke was the first person to take me out on the road and take me to different places, and he was the catalyst for me being able to network and meet all the different people I've met and being able to work all the different places I've had. And then along the way, just that guy taught me a lot about, how fun it can be being on the road, like how fun, like some of the rules and like unspoken rules and stuff of being in the car and some of the things it would take to have a good match. Some other guys down the line, I'll rattle off a few names. My buddy Justin Parker, that worked behind the scenes in a wrestling capacity, taught me a lot about wrestling, a lot about life. I would say, man, even some of my peers, I learned a lot from guys like Don Freeze, like Corey Jackson, Nasty Kevin, who was my old tag partner. I've learned a lot from the different people around me.
Yeah, I'm curious for you when you talk about your stat career. For you personally, what would you consider your first big opportunity in wrestling?
It took a while, dude.
Hmm.
I I was a person that, in terms of like wrestling and really feeling confident in what I did, I was a late bloomer.
Okay.
It took me a good 5 or 6 years before I felt like, okay, I can consistently go out and deliver a good match. And I was very fortunate because a lot of people gave me different opportunities, and it just took a while learning. But to answer your question directly, like there's a promotion that ran a lot in Syracuse. They still run shows out in Rochester, so check them out. They're called Wild Zero. And it was myself and one of my old tag partners. His name was Jacoby. And well, we were in a tag team called Killer Instinct. So it was I was like the Bobby Eaton. I was the partner that was there all the time. And then like if you want to go Midnight Express, Jake was like my Dennis, and then Kevin was like my Stan. So in the original one with me and Jake, we wrestled Colin Delaney and Cheech, who are known as To Infinity and Beyond.
Yeah.
Great tag team, great on their own as well. And that was the first match where we really had like a big, like, big opportunity, big opponent. And that was also the first one we felt like we really like knocked it out of the park. So I would say that match specifically.
Yeah, I'm curious. You said the keyword, it's Killer Instinct. I remember when I was 12 years old, I think it was Outside the Box. I forgot who you wrestled, but what was the whole idea behind Killer Instincts? Obviously, I assume some of your buddies in wrestling, but what was the overall idea behind it?
So I'll get to that. But outside the box, was that the four-way match with, I think it was me. There's a four-way match with me, TJ Crawford. I'm trying to remember who the other two guys were,
It
but I think it
sounds
was
right,
that
but you
match.
did a tag match with Killer Instinct there. I forgot who it was.
Was it? Hmm, I had
I'll
one
pull it
where
up. I'll put the info or something in the graphic. It'll be up
yeah,
here.
because every time, because that was in the old XWA arena, and everything, like there was a Supernova. I think the one I'm thinking of was Supernova.
No, no, no.
There's
So Outside the Box was in the Chop Shop in Pawtucket. Nova was in the event center.
okay, okay. I remember this now. Thank you for that.
Yeah, the
My
Fatal Four was TJ, Joey Bones, and someone else. I forgot who.
Yes. The one at the chop shop, and my memory's fuzzy that far back, but it was me and Kevin versus, oh man,
Was it
matches past
insanely
like
rude?
the third one. Yes. Okay. Yeah, because RJ's still wrestling, and
Yeah.
then his partner isn't wrestling these
Wow.
days, or at least not as much.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it was insanely rude. Yeah. Yeah, that was. I think I've wrestled twice at the Chop Shop, and
Okay.
that was the one. What I remember more about that show is me and Kevin shot a bunch of promos and took a bunch of pictures because I think it was King Leon had like a throne back there, so like we
Yep.
were taking a bunch of like stupid pictures on that. That sticks out way more to me than the match. Like, no offense to anyone involved, it's
Yeah.
just weird stuff like that. But
So yeah,
yeah,
what is the idea behind Killer Instinct?
yeah. So Killer Instinct, like a lot of the people you interview, probably because you're a New England guy.
Yeah.
A lot of us come from the same family tree. So Kowalski is the root of the tree. Like he is the tree,
Yeah.
and we're all just branches off of it. So my trainer Zachary Springett III was trained directly by Kowalski in the '90s at the original school. So he trained me, and he trained Kevin, and he trained Jake. So we were trying to think of a name, and Jake wasn't big on names, so it was all kind of me to come up with it. I'm like, all right, like there's Killer Kowalski. So if I play off the name Killer, and like Killer Instinct came into my head, and like that was kind of the way that more so me and Jake approach the tag team, because we're both very like, oh, we're angry like wrestlers, and that was kind of all we had at that point. And me and Kevin took it in a different direction, but at the beginning it was like, oh, we're very angry wrestlers, like Killer Instinct is our thing, like we're gonna attack you, we're being very pugnacious, and like we're like two little pit bulls going after you, whatever. But that was the idea behind Killer Instinct.
When did like Killer Instinct end?
So Killer Instinct officially ended when Kevin, well, we had our last match probably 2 years ago. Jacoby doesn't wrestle anymore. We had a couple of me and Jacoby Killer Instinct matches, but the main run was, in my opinion, myself and Nasty Kevin, and he ended up moving with his family and for work down to North Carolina, and I begged and pleaded with him for him to continue wrestling because I felt like he was just coming into his own, but he decided to go in a different direction with life, and we still talk and all that, and he's cool, but once he kind of left the scene, then I decided to focus more on single stuff.
Yeah. When you talk your career, it took you a little bit to become Mike Skyros, but what was the transition
Yeah.
to Mike Skyros? Obviously, you look at your career, you're most comfortable right now. You're killing it right now. But how
Thank
long
you.
did it take to become Mike Skyros and find yourself?
So the name Mike Skyros came way before I like became more comfortable and confident in my skin in
Okay.
terms of a wrestler. So the last thing, like I was in 2CW for a while, and I had a couple gimmicks in 2CW. But the last gimmick I had in 2CW, they wanted me to be like more like a rough around the edges, like brawler type wrestler. And the name they gave me was Michael Christopher because Christopher is my middle name, and that's what the guy had at the moment.
Nice
I'm like,
name,
all
yeah.
right. But yeah, I'm like, yeah, it sounds kind of like hoity-toity. Sounds kind of very like Hunter Hearst Helmsley,
Hmm.
like I'm riding a horse and stuff like that. But so I'm like, all right, I want to rebrand like the second I'm out of this. And I was looking around, and I was looking at I was just blanking on ideas. I was throwing names at the wall. The Skyros, there's an island in Greece named Skiros, uh, and I saw it on a map. I'm like, oh, that sounds cool. I'll just go with that, and I went with it. And then the whole Moonlight Sun thing came like a year and a half later because where I saw you, I was wrestling up at XWA a ton, and I had and still do have a mouth guard with fangs on it that I wear to the ring. And Jose, who was a big part of XWA, is a big part of Fight Life, has helped a ton of guys, including myself.
Hmm.
He put Moonlight Sun on a poster. I'm like, oh, what's that? He's like, oh, it sounds like some vampire shit. Like you look like a vampire. I'm like, can I steal that? He's like, all right, whatever. So I stole it, and
Wow.
I've used it to this day. So
Wow.
basically, the process, that was the process of the name, but getting comfortable in my own skin was just kind of trying different things. When I first started the whole Moonlight Sun thing, it was very Axl Rose. It was very, I'm a rock star. I need my drummer, who was Kevin, to count me in literally to start the match. I wore leather pants. like bandanas, like jackets, sunglasses, all this stuff. I would do promos where I was drinking all the time and making him carry my bags like any good lackey, roadie, drummer would do. And I would show up to the arena late and all this sort of fun, wacky stuff. And then eventually over time, it became more like me, which I think most wrestling
Mhm.
personas do. You just become more like yourself. And it progressed and it went through its different iterations. And we're at the point we're at now, which is we'll talk about it because I assume we'll get to it at some point, but it's kind of in another transition phase as we speak right now.
Okay. Yeah, I'm curious when we talk first earlier in your career. NYCW, is there a moment that sticks out there?
Oh, dude, it's funny because there were so many times in NYCW where I was like, oh, like this sucks. Like we're not getting like what we want here. Like so many of the decisions that were being made were frustrating. All this stuff, all the normal wrestler
Yeah.
complaints. But in hindsight, super fun time in my career. Super formative time in my career. That's where the Killer Instinct thing really got a chance to spread its wings because Kevin and I were really fortunate to make a connection with the crowd with what we were doing. We had a really good balance where Kevin was the personality to where he had the nasty Kevin thing. Like he like do wet willies and pick his nose,
Yeah.
stick his thumb in people's mouth, and people really thought it was that like it was entertaining. It was fun.
Yeah.
And then I was more he was the seasoning. I was more the steak of the team. I would do like all the spots basically, and I would put the matches together and all that stuff. But we had good balance that way,
Nice.
and we ended up making a connection with the crowd. And thank you, Johnny Patches, who's the guy that ran NYCW. He just threw us a bunch of cool tag teams to work with. Like I got to wrestle the Stepdads, which aside being with, I've known those guys since like 2008.
Wow.
Real life friends of mine outside the ring, good dudes. I think they're very talented, but also like really cool to wrestle, especially at that point in time. They were a lot more seasoned than Kevin and I. So like the type of matches we had were, in my opinion, much more interesting and compelling and less by the numbers than matches we would have with other people. We got to wrestle also the Ugly Ducklings, who are incredible.
Yeah.
Shout out to Robin Lance and Mike. Like really good team. Learned a ton from those guys. And like we just got a chance to have some freedom and spread our wings and really be like given the ball and try and run with it as a top act. And I think we did a really good job.
Yeah. When you talk early in your career, I'm curious for you. You got to wrestle him early on. I think nowadays you're still wrestling once in a while. Is there a match or a moment with Jay Freddie that sticks out?
Dude, the most recent match I had was with Jay Freddie. Let me ask you this. Did you see Freddie and I at XWA?
I think so. That's why as soon as I saw him, I brought it up.
Is that where you gave me this?
That was Nova. That Fatal 4-Way show. I love it. I still have your signed.
Yeah, for anyone, I want everyone to get a good look at that. Chris drew this for me back in the day. It's been on my wall for years because,
Wow.
like, genuinely, I'm so thankful that like you took the time to draw a picture of me. Like that was one of the first pieces of art anyone made for me, so that
Wow.
that always like hit home, and I thought that was so cool. So I didn't hold on to that to you roast you or anything. Like genuinely, that's
No,
a
I
super cool
appreciate it.
memory. So I want to bring that out. But yeah, Jay Freddie, I wrestled at the XWA event center, and he's someone that's been like a constant. He's been like a measuring stick for me because Freddie is a guy that's from the same area that I am. He was trained
Mhm.
by the same people, and he worked super hard because, and I don't think he'll be mad at me saying this, but he's not like physically like the most impressive guy. Like he's super jacked now, but he's not like he doesn't have like a crazy look that jumps off the wall like an Ultimate Warrior or
Mhm.
something, or like a even like a Kevin Nash or like some big dude like that. So he worked really hard for everything he got, and he was one of the first guys to like put my name out there and take me different places and wrestle me and put me in these situations. So Freddie is a guy that's like really, really hard and really challenging to wrestle, not in the sense that he makes things difficult,
Yeah.
but because his standard is so high, he makes you wrestle up to him, which I'm really thankful for. Also a cardio machine. He'll always be like, oh, well, I hope I can keep up with the kids in the ring these days. Dude's cardio is off the wall. Like he has all of us coming back tongues
Nice.
hanging out of our mouth, like laying on the ground, tired, wrestling that dude. And I just wrestled him at Pro Wrestling Grind. He's been like my main rival there, like a dude that I've gone back and forth with for literal years there. And he's like I said, he's the measuring stick. He's a really, really valuable person in my wrestling career, a really tough opponent.
Nice. Now you're in New York, right?
I am Syracuse, New York.
Is there anything you think that stands out about New York's wrestling scene compared to anywhere else?
So we have a lot of different flavors of wrestling in our upstate New York scene. So what I can tell you about the Syracuse guys is it's it's tough because a lot of people want to kind of paint themselves in this light. So I'm going to try and be as objective as I can, but we don't have the best, like we don't have a lot of connections in terms of guys that are really out there doing a lot of stuff that can open doors. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of that, Brew Van Slyke did that a lot for me. Jay Freddie did that a lot for me. Isis Effects did what he could for me while he was still like really on the roads a ton. But outside of that, it's fallen at this point on my shoulders to be the guy to be like, hey, I'm representing Syracuse, New York. Hey, you should check out Don Freeze. Hey, you should check out Black and Yellow, Corey Jackson and Ting. Hey, you should check out Jacoby, Kevin, like all these dudes that
Yeah.
came from my school. That kind of fell on me. So we are really like we're a technique based school. We're really obsessive about fundamentals and holds and making sure that all those things are in line. And we also have a bit of a chip on our shoulder. I could definitely say that because a lot of us don't get the opportunity to be handed things, or we don't have connections to a WWE or an AEW that we can use as presently as some other schools, which is a great thing. It's just these are the tools that we are working with.
Yeah. I'm curious when you look at your career, you talk about your team with Killer Instinct. Short lived, but what was the idea behind team with Blaxstrom?
Dude, teaming with Blackstrom, like I wish we got to do so much more of that
Yeah.
because we took the promo photos and I just like
Yeah.
I don't even think I put like a weird caption on it, but like when we posted the promo photos, people were like that. Like that's it. We need to see that. And we just didn't get enough at bats and we didn't get enough momentum. And like I'll take some of the blame for that because like if in some of the matches we had knocked him more out of the park or I had done a little bit more in the matches, like we would have been in a different scenario. But I really wish we had gotten some more time and some more reps to build up our chemistry and like our way of doing things in the ring because Blackstrom's a super talented guy. He's a guy that, from what I understand, doesn't wrestle really anymore. I talk to him every once in a while. Really good dude. Miss having him around. I wish I could get like one more. Like, I would love to wrestle him one on one. Like just get one with him before if he's done. I would love to have that happen. But yeah, it's one of those things where I wish we got a chance to spread our wings a little more because aesthetically, I think it was cool. We have a similar mindset in terms of how we approach wrestling, and we just didn't get all we could out of it. And there's definitely something left on the table.
Yeah. Well, when you talk your career, the people you've gotten to wrestle, there's some people in the indies that wish they've had a career like you. So there's three matches I want to ask you about. The first one, we'll get it over with because you do it in every podcast, but having the opportunity wrestling Minoru Suzuki, especially on the independent level, when you look at that PWI 500 list that came out, half these people hasn't had that opportunity. So for you, what was that like?
Dude, I'm super fortunate.
Yeah.
Like that's something in terms of the match being booked, I definitely worked myself into a position to where I was the best guy for that match in that company.
Mm.
So I did lay that groundwork, which I will take credit for. But there are two or three guys that were kicking around in terms of who they wanted to book that match with. But I got a message from Mike King, who's the promoter of Immortal Championship Wrestling, and he was like, "Are you ready for the biggest match of your career?" I'm like, "Oh man, what you got?" And promoters will say that a lot of the time. And like, "Oh, you're wrestling, Joe from, down the block." I'm like, "All right, bro, cool."
Yeah.
But he's like, "Oh, you're wrestling Suzuki. And I'm like, you're fucking with me. He's like, no, we're booking Suzuki. And it blew my mind. And it was funny too, because when they made the official announcement, it was April 1st. And
Yeah.
the amount of messages I got, like, is this real? Is this an April Fool's? I'm like, no, dude, it's real. And then they had it on billboards like 45 minutes from my house because it was like the next town over.
Mhm.
Um, it was mind blowing. And that's one of the few matches I I don't say this because I don't care, because I care immensely about wrestling and what I do in the ring, but I don't get like nervous for matches much these days just because, especially if it's like an indie guy, a local indie guy, or someone I've wrestled before, like there's a certain amount of comfortability with, like, okay, like this is familiar to me. But Suzuki, before I went out for that match, I was very literally like this, like my
Mm.
hands were shaking. And it was the point where like people were being very nice like throughout the whole day, but I was sitting in the locker room in my gear and they're coming up like, oh, good luck, go kill it. I'm like, dude, I need to be by myself because I'm gonna tweak out right now.
Yeah.
And then sitting in the ring, that's one of the memories I can have that's super vivid. I was sitting in the corner facing the entranceway and his music is playing and I'm watching him walk out. I'm like, is this real life? Like
Yeah.
this is insane. Um, I'm super privileged to have had that moment. It's something you said, a lot of people ask me about it, which is true.
Yeah.
I talk about it all the time, even in locker rooms, like people ask me about it, but I never get sick of talking about that. It's never lost on me how cool that was to me, and I'll be a fanboy about it. I don't care. It was cool, man. And then he posted me on his Instagram. He posted me, and he had like really complimentary things to say. And even if he didn't feel that way, like I don't care. Minoru Suzuki said I was a good wrestler, and he posted my face on his page.
Yeah.
Cool. Like I could have wrapped it up right there, and it would have been okay.
We talk about fanboying. I mean, I was 12 years old fanboying for you. So the fact that I'm 20, we can do this, man. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
When you talk hard hitters, I'm curious, is there anything that stands out wrestling JD Drake?
Probably what everyone thinks it is. Like,
Yeah.
dude chops really hard.
Yeah.
It's funny because my chops were very hit or miss until I locked in like right before I wrestled Suzuki. Oh, I'll tell you what it was actually. This is a little bit of a sidebar, but House of Glory Wrestling, great promotion in New York. They do a lot of good stuff there for the town. But one of the things they did is they hosted a Samoa Joe seminar, right? And
Mhm.
one of the things he went over with us in detail was the proper technique for throwing certain strikes. So I believe we did forearms, uppercuts, but one of the things we did was chops. And he explained the chop, and I changed my chop. And I'm not saying this to make myself sound good. There are witnesses. This is how it happened. But I applied the chop as we were in our different groups. When he walked around, I did the chop for him. He said, "Perfect technique, perfect chop." Those were his words. I'm like, okay,
Nice.
that is how I do the chop from now on.
Nice.
So I wish I'd known that before I wrestled JD Drake, because I didn't get it. He lit me up, which
Yeah.
is what I expected.
Yeah.
That's a lot of my matches these days. But JD was someone who he brought it. He was very, he didn't. I don't want to say like he didn't make things easy in terms of like he was being a jerk, because he wasn't. But he was someone that, again, kind of like Freddie, I had to wrestle up to him, and that was a match that really created a lot of momentum for me at Pro Wrestling Grind, and I beat JD Drake. So, no matter what anyone has to say, like that's another one. It's another feather in my cap. Beat him by
Yeah.
pinfall.
When you talk about feathers in the cap, this one I'm curious about. JD Drake and Minoru Suzuki have a certain style, hard hit and everything, but wrestling Matt Cardona, especially NYCW and everything, the same roots pretty much. So how is it wrestling him?
So the Cardona thing developed a few new twists in the last couple months, and I'll get to that. But
Mhm.
the lead up, uh, Cardona, it was very much in like his belt collector phase on the independents. He was winning every championship. I was champion of a company called Excite Wrestling, which is based out of Binghamton, New York. And every year they run an event at this fair called Speedy Fest, draws thousands of people. I'll get into that. But I was booked against Cardona. Cardona, when he was wrestling as Zack Ryder, and I told him this afterwards. is someone who I was a huge fan of when I was in high school. I still had the headband from like back
Yeah.
in the day. There's photos that I put it on during the match, and I think I fist pumped or something. Uh, but legitimately someone who I was a huge fan of,
Yeah.
and Gay Wrestling was super cool, and that was a big moment for me. And again, I beat him. I beat him by pinfall. That was very cool. He's super professional, super easy to work with. But I was a little bummed, and I would love to talk to him about this. Or I would love to it to circle around on social media, or however it would have to go. But he didn't tell the whole story. So he went on the podcast, and Chris Van Vliet asked him a bunch of questions. Oh, you're an indie wrestler. You must wrestle in various venues and different crowd sizes. It's like, yeah, I wrestled at this fair, and there was nobody there, and blah blah blah. That's bullshit. I have my own footage of that match, and when you go out there, you can clearly see there's a full crowd of people there at this fair, like, and not just like there's a crowd of people there like paying attention to that match. And me and him had a cool match. I beat him. The crowd was involved. Later in the night, he ended up interfering in a different match and winning the Excite International title, which is like the step down. I was defending the heavyweight title.
Okay.
He ended up winning the international title. I forget what the set of circumstances was, but basically the champion retained, and then he's like, oh, whoever's in the back, blah, blah, blah. Cardona comes on, wins it. And that's the part where there's the photo, and he's talking about like he had to act like this title was like his baby, and it was like a huge moment for him. But he didn't tell the whole truth, and I gotta call him out for that. But Matt's still cool. He was just on NXT. Good for him. Like,
Yeah.
legitimately got nothing bad to say about the guy. He was always cool to me, and even in situations where he didn't have to be.
Nice. When you were talking about the Moonlight Son, you said you're starting to make a new transition. What's the inspiration? How long has this been brewing?
Probably like a year. It's one of those things where it's not something I think about like, okay, in 6 months I'm going to start painting my face. It's just one of those things where last year it felt like the match felt like, okay, I need a little extra something here. So I have a friend who she paints faces like professionally. So I had her do a design. I'm like, oh, this is cool. Got good feedback. Decided to keep that in the back of my mind. And then earlier this year, I had another match where really high stakes, really personal. Painted my face again.
What is the inspiration
Uh,
for the face paint?
the inspiration once it was tough. Especially once I cut my hair,
Hmm.
I was like, I want to visual. I'm a big visual person in terms of wrestling. I wanted something to stand out because the hair was like my signature thing forever. I
Yeah.
got normal ass haircut now, but I'm like, I need something to stand out, but it needs to be something that's me, something I like. And the face paint just spoke to me, and it allows me. This is however this sounds to people out there. This is just how it feels to me,
Yeah.
but the face paint allows me to distance myself from Mike that I see in the mirror every day. It allows me to distance myself from my humanity almost. Because when I put the face paint on, I look in the mirror, I don't see me anymore. I see like a thing of my own creation. It's different. So it allows me to distance myself from Mike, the person outside of the ring, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I'm curious when you look at your career. There's two title reigns I want to ask you about because no offense
Yeah.
to anyone, you are the greatest person, in my opinion, to hold these. So the first one I ask you about, the K1 Classic. Is there a match or the moment? Because I remember on social media being in school, like you are the guy what I thought of when I think of that championship at Test of Strength.
I appreciate that. So before I get into that, I am going to give a little bit of credit to a few guys. Hippie Dicky Moon, Brother Greatness, Sammy Diaz laid the foundation for what the K1 was
Yeah.
able to become.
Okay.
And then Ichiban afterwards was super workhorse with it,
Yeah.
carried it, did everything with it. So like credit to those guys. So The story of the K1 was interesting because I can tell this now because it's years later,
Yeah.
and so no offense to TOS, but I was booked at 2 shows on that day, and I was like, because I'm like, I messaged TOS, I'm like, hey bro, like, do you need me for this show? Because this other show wants to book me, and I don't know if I'm doing anything on the show. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna have you challenge for the K1. Like, it's you, Sammy, and Pillman Jr. I'm like, okay, I think I should show up for that. It sounds like a big match. So, not thinking I'm going to win,
Yeah.
not thinking I had a chance of winning. So I go in, I win, and it was a trophy at the
Yeah, at the
time.
time,
You know,
yeah.
it was literally a cup. So I win the trophy, and first title defense kind of rocky. Not gonna lie, crowd was very split between myself and Sammy. That's just the way it was. It
Yeah.
took me a little while to get my feet under me with that championship, but I ended up getting the belt, which the belt is beautiful. If anyone else hasn't seen it, I'm sure you'll put
I'll
something
put it
up
up there, yeah.
afterwards. Yeah, probably my favorite belt aesthetically that I've ever held, and like personal significance as well because of the association with Walter and
Mhm.
my wrestling family tree. But I got to wrestle, I got to wrestle Eddie Edwards, I got to wrestle Sammy, I got to wrestle Ichiban. The moment, like 2 moments stand out. Actually, there's three that stand out to me.
Mhm.
Um, Wrestling Steve Pena he's a guy that I think very highly of. I love his style, and he really brought a lot out of me in the ring just with his intensity and how hard hitting he was and his focus. Like I really felt like I was in a fight every time I wrestled him, and I love that. Wrestling in a 4-way, it was myself, Jordan Rowe, Bobby Ocean, Eddie Edwards, and we could talk more about Eddie Edwards if it comes up in the interview because he's someone I wrestle in singles as well. But Eddie, when I was starting out in 2CW, he was a guy that was always around, and like I always felt like that dude's awesome. That dude gets it. That dude has incredible matches every time. Like that dude's like the kind of pro I want to be. And then I would see Eddie every once in a while down the road. And one thing I thought that was really cool about him is he I could tell like he didn't always remember like my name or where he knew me from, but he always remembered that he knew me. I always made a point to say hello, and eventually like we got to know each other a little bit more and all that. But Eddie
Nice.
was always super cool to me, and that meant a lot. So getting to wrestle him, super cool. And then on the way out, wrestling Ichiban, that's one of the best matches I've ever had. It that day just clicked,
Mhm.
and I don't, I'm never gonna say I made Ichiban because Ichiban made Ichiban and all
Yeah.
his hard work he put in at TOS and a million other places. But I really felt like I gave him an assist that day, and I really put him in a good position to be handed something to run with in terms of the K1. So I'm super proud of that match. And the thing I'm proud of is sort of an overarching idea with the K1 is that the K1 became bigger than the heavyweight championship at Test of Strength, in my opinion. It, I was the one that was in like the workhorse matches. I was the one who had to carry it with wrestling on those shows. No offense to the champion at the time,
Yeah.
but I was the one who was closing a lot of those shows. That's just a fact, and I was really proud to be handed that ball and to run with it in the way that I did.
I remember 574, I believe. Was it towards the end of the reign it became a belt, or did you always have the cup?
So I had the cup. I was presented the belt. There was a match where it was myself versus Mike Verna versus Ichiban. And after that, when I won that match, I was awarded the belt.
Okay. Okay. You talked about it. How was it wrestling singles, Eddie Edwards?
Dude, really like it really what's the word I'm looking for? It really reinforced that a lot of the things I'm doing, in my opinion, like have worked out in terms of what I do in the ring. Because again, like I said, Eddie is someone I hold in super high regard,
Mhm.
especially what he does in the ring. And without getting too inside baseball, like when I did the match and the things I did worked and the match was good, and then afterwards, Eddie had like pinpoint critiques,
Okay.
but he didn't have it wasn't like, oh, dude, you were way off on this or you fucked up on this. Like, I'm like, cool, I'm fucking doing something right. Like that was very fulfilling to me and it meant a lot. And I could wrestle. Well, first of all, hardest I've been chopped by anybody ever by far. Eddie
Wow.
Edwards by like a huge margin. No offense to anyone else, by far. Um, and also, you know, I could wrestle him every day of the week. With that said, he's
Nice.
such a pro. He's so good. I think he's the type of wrestler everyone should strive to be.
Nice. When you talk your career, I'm curious for you. One company that obviously sticks out. You were a champion of. We're gonna get into that, but how did Pro Wrestling Grind come to be?
Oh, dude, especially because was just there, but I cannot overemphasize like how special and cherished and important pro wrestling grind is to me. I It's funny because I was so close to not being booked there because and I talked to them about this way later, but ownership was just thought they had a bunch of other guys that were like me and did what I did, which wasn't true, but from an outside perspective, I could see what they were thinking.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think about like what my career would be like if I had never wrestled there, which is a bummer to think about. But Pro Wrestling Grind has been in like this chapter of my career. It's been the thing that I've really locked into. A thing that's been my top priority, and the thing that's allowed a lot of other things to be possible and to continue happening. So Pro Wrestling Grind, I was brought into. There is, yeah, rest in peace. I don't know if you know Wrestlebrook Jess.
Yeah.
She's a wonderful person, someone who always supported me, someone who was always kind to me, and she knew I wanted to be in Pro Wrestling Grind. I loved what they were about from the start. I loved the presentation. I loved the type of match they put on because they were different. They weren't doing the same thing that a lot of other companies were doing in New England. They weren't using a lot of the same people that
Yeah.
other companies in New England were doing. They had their own things. So she had tagged me a couple different things trying to, get me onto the roster. I'd messaged him a few times. It hadn't worked out. One night, the Grind account tweeted, uh, the owner of Pro Wrestling Grind is drunk. Shoot your shot now if you want to shoot your shot. So she messaged me the screenshot of that. So I shot my shot and it ended up working out. And I got booked on, I'm looking at the poster right now. It's tacked onto my wall. I take it off. I got booked on Antisocial against Travis Huckabee. And
Yeah.
it's funny because I started out at Pro Wrestling Grind. I really wanted the fans to love me. Like I really wanted to be like a guy that they're really happy and excited to see. And they just didn't take to me like that. And
Oh.
they didn't care a ton. Like that's just the truth of it. And it worked out better. But what I did after every match is I would go on my camera and I would talk about like, all right, I lost, whatever, on to the next one. And then eventually it just got to a point of desperation where I was like, I can't be forced off of this roster because this is where I want to be. Like I need to be here, but I need to figure out how to stay and what to do.
Yeah.
So a show after I did that interview, they had a tournament for number one contendership for at the time Jay Freddie's championship. So I sat at ringside in a chair in a button-up shirt and slacks and loafers the whole show. Did not move.
Hmm.
Travis Huckabee comes out, knocks me out of the chair, grabs the chair. He's wrestling Logan Black.
Hmm.
I slide in, I grab the chair. People think I'm gonna crack Travis for knocking me over. Crack Logan Black
Wow.
because Travis, whether people agree with him or not, was my way to the top. And I used Travis to get what I needed out of Pro Wrestling Grind. And eventually, when the time was right, and Travis thought things were cool, we were in a four-way match for the title. I took my opportunity there. I became champion. I held that belt longer than anybody else.
I'm curious first. The first thing I want to ask you is what is your approach to shooting your shot to a promoter when they're drunk? How did you make the approach?
Uh, I I always go like overly professional. Like I
Nice.
break out. I flash back to every English writing class I ever had in my life. I'm just like, hello, sir, or if it's a woman, like, hello, miss, like I'm so and so from blah blah blah. I just I'm too wordy, so I try to
Yeah.
chop it down, but I'm just trying to be as professional as possible.
Nice.
Like, hey, I'm Mike. I've done this. I'm from this place. If you want to see more of me, here's this. I really like what you're doing at your promotion because at each promotion has a little bit of
Nice.
something. I love, like I said, I love Pro Wrestling Grind, and I listed the reason why I love Pro Wrestling Grind. Like, hey, would love to talk. Let me know
Nice.
if you're interested.
What
And they either do or they don't.
I was gonna say for you being a part of Pro Wrestling Grind, I think it was towards the end of the year, it might have been this year. They posted that group photo. Obviously, you talk about Pro Wrestling Grind has that tight knit group. So, what is like the atmosphere like wrestling for them, and especially things like the ropes? You don't have or the buckles in the corner. The entrance is unique. Everything's unique about Grind.
Well, yeah, like to get into, I'll talk a little bit about the actually being champion. So there's a reason why everyone wants to wrestle for Pro Wrestling Grind. They get hit up by people all the time. It's got its own unique flavor. It's Japanese flavored New England wrestling,
Yeah.
and no one else does it quite like them. So everyone wants a piece of that, and it made me a much more valuable commodity being the champion of that company because even if people didn't necessarily want to wrestle me, they wanted to be on Pro Wrestling Grind. So it's like, okay, you're wrestling. If you're a big deal, like if you're like uh, Warhorse or Gary J or Kodai or any of these guys, you're a big deal. You're gonna wrestle our champion, and that's what those guys did. So it put a big spotlight on me, and it still puts a spotlight on me being a person that's like still a big part of that promotion. So, but when you talk about the locker room, the atmosphere, it's competitive as hell. Like
Yeah.
all of us, what I will say, the core guys, we all want each other to succeed. Like when it comes to myself, Freddie, Rip, Delmy, Perry, Andy Brown, A Game, Travis, Ryan Mooney. If there's anyone else I'm forgetting, I apologize. But we all we all want Grind to do well. We
Hmm.
all want each other to do well. And we want to kill it. With that said, we all want to have the best match in the card
Yeah.
because that crowd is so like rabid in a positive way. Like there are certain wrestling crowds, in my opinion, that they're like
Yeah.
impress me. That's not the Pro Wrestling Grind crowd. They're there to have a good time and they want to be impressed, but you give them like hard hitting strike fest and you do it well, they love it. You give them a wild brawl around the ring, you do it well, they love it. You give them high flying, they love it. Technical wrestling done well, they love it. So all those factors combined, it's super competitive, but it's a positive environment. Like a lot of us hang out outside the ring, we eat, we drink, we party together, and
Nice.
it's a little slice of I think wrestling from years gone by because so many shows you go to the show and you not that you don't like being around those people, but like all right, I need to get on the road. I'm ready to leave all this stuff, and maybe you stop at a Waffle House, you stop at like a Cumberland Farms or something
Yeah.
with your boys, and you grab a little whatever. But Grind, like it's really a point where we all get together somewhere, we hang out, we enjoy each other's company, and that's really valuable to me, and I think it's really valuable to my peers in that locker room as well.
You mentioned it being the Grind Grand Champion. 600, what was it, 24, 25 days. Absolutely insane. Is there a defense or moment that sticks out from that reign?
Ooh, it's weird because it's kind of a parallel to Ichiban.
Okay.
The one of the defenses that sticks out in my mind, and maybe it's because it's recent, but was when I lost to Perry Von Vicious. That is one of the loudest reactions I've ever heard in my life. Maybe I just lose well. I don't know, but maybe they're like finally
Yeah,
get it all
maybe.
that guy. But yeah, wrestling Perry and that whole match and the result of that match, I'm really like we knocked it out of the park. Wrestling Jay Freddie, wrestling Delmy, wrestling Kodai
That's
was
nuts.
again another one. Yeah, was challenging because there's also a language barrier there. But Kodai, incredible pro. Really like there were times where I really didn't think I was going to get through that match like physically because they're just so demanding. But that's one that's going to stick out. Um, one of the I defended off site at LIT against Sammy Diaz. I really like that match as well. I thought that was a
Nice.
really cool match. So I would say those ones. There
Nice.
may be one or two in there that I'm not remembering, but probably those ones.
When you talk championships, being the first ever Green Mountain Wrestling Championship, how's your experience been overall there? Brand new company becoming their first ever champion. I think before the match, didn't like Kevin Owens do a promo or something?
So I'll touch on that part first. I didn't know about Kevin Steen being on the video screen or
That's
having any
nuts.
association with Green Mountain Wrestling until like I saw him on the screen.
Uh,
I was like, whoa, that because he Adam posted a thing somewhere earlier in the day. He's like, oh, we got a special guest appearing on the screen for Green Mountain Wrestling. I'm like, okay, like I wonder who this could be. Maybe he has some different connections. But that you could give me 1,000 guesses, I wouldn't have guessed him.
yeah.
But it was a little bittersweet because did you watch the actual video?
Yeah.
And he wanted to be there, and he had a family event, which he's a big family guy. I respect
Yeah.
the hell out of that. But man, if he had been there to present me with the championship, I would have been on cloud 10 that day, bro. But
Yeah.
Green Mountain Wrestling, I'm super thankful for. They're a place that I wasn't sure what to expect when they first contacted me, but I'm really glad that I gave them a shot. I'm really glad that in turn they were patient with me and gave me opportunities because Vermont is a wrestling territory that really hasn't been explored a ton. And it's
Hmm.
fun because a lot of those fans are getting to see independent wrestling live for the first time and they're having a blast. And we have so many different characters in the locker room. And what's cool about the locker room is everyone gets along. It's so low stress, it's so low ego. It rules. But on the flip side, and I won't spoil anything, but I've had guys in the locker room tell me this, which I take as a compliment because I really don't think of myself this way, but they're like once like guys like me, guys like Freeze, guys like Corey Jackson showed up, they're like, okay, we got to step our game up. Like we got to, these guys are bringing a whole nother level of wrestling there, and I think everyone in the locker room has stepped up and really like tried to bring Green Mountain up, and the YouTube views are through the roof. Like the social media is through the roof. Like
Nice.
Corey Jackson and Athen Promise just they're almost at 100,000 views on one of their videos, which
Yeah.
is
Nuts.
awesome.
Yeah.
And when I speak about like Freeze and Corey, David Coles, Adam has been very cool about me being like, hey, I got this guy coming with me in the car. He doesn't expect anything, but give him a shot in a match. Take a look at him. I think he's really good. I think you'll like him too. And shout out to my guys. They've stepped out and
Nice.
knocked it out of the park because they're good wrestlers and they got themselves spots on that show because of that.
Wow.
And all that to say, man, I'm really proud to be the inaugural Green Mountain Wrestling champion. I don't take it lightly at all. I want to see how far I can take that championship. And I'm really proud to be involved with Green Mountain Wrestling. Green Mountain Wrestling rules. If you guys are anywhere near Vermont, you're going to see a really unique card. You're going to see a really fun card. Come out and see us. And we're doing a show with GCW on November 9th. I have no idea what's going to happen. I
Yeah.
don't know if slash and what capacity. I assume because I'm champion, I'll be involved somehow.
Yeah.
But I don't know what I'm doing. GCW could be anybody. They announced Ricky Morton for the show. They announced Danhausen, Shotzi, all these people. Like it's going to be nuts.
Yeah. When we record this, the day before the PWI came out, and I'm proud of you. 470. The year before was a 485.
Yeah,
So
you
to
nailed it.
start climbing the ranks, PWI obviously historic for you personally. See that hard work paying off, climbing the ranks. What does that mean for you?
Dude, and I got my picture in it this year. I was so
That's
hyped about
sick.
that. Yeah, one because like that part of it's cool, and then the photographer, her name's Rye. Like she's like just like getting into the pro wrestling sphere as a photographer, and I know she was really happy to see two of her photos because there's a photo of me and there's a
Mm,
photo of Kodai in the magazine, and that
nice.
rules. But yeah, it's you know I don't. It's obviously the list is subjective because it's based on a certain set of opinions and criteria.
Hmm.
But I'm super proud to be on the list. It's been a professional goal of mine forever, and it's something that I'm really happy. Again, being a kid from Syracuse to be recognized on the scale, and to help get some spotlight to maybe shine a little bit on guys like, again, like Freeze and Corey Jackson and David Cole. Be like, hey, here's some more guys from my area you should check out. I think they're really cool.
Yeah, I
It's
know.
it's fun to be able to do that.
I'm curious for when you look at your career, you talk about wrestling guys like Suzuki and Eddie Edwards. For you personally, if you had to pinpoint one, maybe Suzuki, but what would you say Mike Skyros' biggest test in wrestling is?
Oh man. Um, oh, that's tough because there have been so many points, both personally and professionally, where I've just been like, I don't know how I get to the next plateau. I don't know how
Okay.
I get to the next thing or I keep moving forward. I think just some of the biggest, there have been 2 or 3 points in my career where the the bookings and the requests and things of that nature weren't coming in how I thought they were. And I had to look at myself and be like, okay, either this is the way things are going to continue, or I gotta get on the road, get in some emails, uh, have better matches, promote myself more, all the above, and find a way to keep moving up. And the moments where I've been able to do that are the things I'm most proud of because, like, dude, that like, there's so many points where it could have just been like, good game, guys. We're wrapping
Yeah,
up, but um, I kept moving forward. I was able to get into new places, and people gave me opportunities. So I'm most proud of like those things.
nice. If you had somebody ask you, if you had a pinpoint, is there a match that you'd say defined your career?
Defined, I would say, I think it's an easy one, but the Suzuki match, like if you wanna see like if you want to see me really fight, you want to see me really dig, I'd say that match, the Eddie Edwards match, and then there's a match from Immortal with Richard Holiday, who is not my best friend by any means, but is a match I'm super proud of and that I really think we knocked out of the park. It's from 2021. Um, I would say I would say those.
Nice. I'm curious from your perspective, for a guy who's traveled a lot for a long time in wrestling, is there a venue that sticks out that you got to perform in?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the guys you talk to might say similar thing too, because a lot of them have been on this event. But getting to wrestle in Fenway Park was really cool.
Yeah.
Getting to wrestle in the White Eagle was
Yeah.
really cool. Getting to wrestle myself and Thomas Santel, also known as Antonio Thomas, was also one half of the Heartthrobs. He's had a bunch of different names.
Yeah.
Incredible dude. Getting to wrestle him at um, at the Palladium. We were the very first match for Wrestling
Nice.
Open at the Palladium. That ruled. Getting to wrestle in the original arena for C4 Wrestling in Ottawa. That was really cool
Yeah.
because anyone who's like familiar with C4, they know the one I'm talking about. Awesome. And yeah, those are the ones that stick out to me. Oh, getting to wrestle at the fairgrounds in Syracuse, New York. We had 1,400 people there. That was awesome too. And
Nice.
I was in the main event and I was really thankful because the vast majority of that crowd stayed and were involved in my match when they could have just gotten their autographs or could have just watched most of the card and left, but they stayed to watch myself and Shane Stetson wrestle. So that was very cool.
You talk Fenway. I'm curious, who was your match at Fenway? And what match number were you? Because I know they do like 47 matches in a day.
Oh God. I think the first year I was like I was like 18.
Whew.
We were right at the end and we're driving the farthest too. I was talking to the promoter, I'm like, brother, you are killing me. But I was in a tag gauntlet match with Kevin and
Uh-huh.
we wrestled like 4 different teams. Uh, one of them was Mike Montero and Ricky.
Oh,
I
nice.
do remember
DCMC,
them.
yeah.
Yes. And yeah, that was the first year. Um, I remember one year the most recent year I didn't even get to go on
Okay.
because we were like 4 before the end and we didn't even get to wrestle because
What
like
did they
so
cut
much
it?
went wrong. Yeah, they cut like the last however many matches. The only advertised match that day was I believe it was Ichiban versus Alec Price.
Okay.
Didn't happen. Didn't happen.
When you talk C4, what was it like for Ottawa for you to wrestle in Canada?
Dude, that ruled. I wish I could do it now
Yeah.
because I still didn't know who I was. Like I was wearing like very generic gear. I didn't really have a lot of the skill set that I did like a couple of years later. They did give me shots though. So shout out to C4.
Mm,
No ill will, but I wrestled up there a bunch, a lot of like pre-show matches and things of that nature, and they gave me a shot and I wasn't ready at that time, but it was cool, man. Those fans are so cool.
nice.
They're super like they love their hardcore and their violence, but a lot of those fans are like sweethearts. They're always so kind to me. They always like they bought me poutine a few times, which ruled. Wrestling in to our borders to the north always ruled. I loved it there.
Nice.
I want to do that more. Specifically, I want to go to Toronto and I want to go to Montreal more because both of those were cities like I just really enjoyed being in. And I would like to return to.
I know a lot of independent wrestlers just want to check off the Canada box. For you, is there anything personally you think stood out about the Canada wrestling scene?
Yeah, it's one of those things. I spoke a little bit about this with Vermont,
Yeah.
and they're getting a little bit more wrestling because there are a lot of big indies up there. And then with what TNA is doing, obviously they're Canada based
Yeah.
now, but they just didn't get as much wrestling. So they're super appreciative of everything. And I also think there's a bit of a culture difference because, again, the Northeast, we have really good fans
Mhm.
in New York and New England, but some of those fans, they've seen a lot of wrestling. So it takes a lot to impress them, or they only like matches where you do 10,000 moves, and that's not always my style. But the Canadian fans, they're really they're really just appreciative of what we put forth in the ring. But you do got to work hard and give them something good. They'll be polite, but to really get them, you gotta work your ass off.
Yeah. When you look at your career, who would you say brings the best out of Mike Skyros?
There's there's a few people. I would say it's tough because I haven't wrestled him in a singles in close to a decade. But my trainer, Isis Effects, he really brings a lot out of me. I really would love to get one more single anywhere with him. I would say Don Freeze. I would say David Coles, Eddie Edwards, Colin Delaney, Steve Pena, Jay Freddie, and two more: Jay Bougie,
Nice.
Joseph Alexander, A game.
Nice. I'm curious when you look right now, what does the future hold? 470 yesterday, you're killing it. What's next for Mike Skyros?
If I'm being very blunt about it, I I need to expand my horizons. I love wrestling close to home. I think most people do.
Yeah.
There's a certain point to where I have to go elsewhere and become a bigger star. And I think I can serve my area better. And whether that's Canada, I wrestled for New South in May of this year. Incredible experience. I wrestled
Awesome.
a guy named Mad Dog Conley, who a lot of people may be familiar with. Awesome.
Yeah.
Um, Really super intense. And he's going places for a reason. I would love to return to New South. The West Coast is really popping off right now. I would love to wrestle in Japan, Canada, Mexico. I One thing I've really gotten into recently, I am really enjoying getting to explore like classic lucha libre. I've been watching like Super Porky, Atlantis,
Oh yeah.
uh, Negro Casas, so many incredible wrestlers. Power Rojo, Deep Cut.
Yeah.
Uh, there are a lot of guys that like I've really been inspired by down there. I'm not saying that I'm going to be busting out Hurricane Ranas and things of that nature because like I know what my body can and can't do, but
Yeah.
there's so much to learn from that, and I really would if I got like one shot to wrestle for a lucha company in Mexico, like a traditional lucha company, and do it right. That's something that would really mean a lot to me as well.
Nice. Well, Mike, I want to thank you for doing this, and I want to thank you for everything over these years. However, I've ended every interview the same now. The day you decide pro wrestling is all done, which isn't happening anytime soon, but the day you decide it's all done, what do you want Mike Skyros' legacy in pro wrestling to be?
Man, it's weird because like I feel like legacy is reserved for a certain group of people, but it is also not up to me to tell people like how to remember me. I hope that I hope I make a positive impact overall. Like I hope that if my name gets brought up in conversation, it's like he was cool to work with. He gave me a cool match. If you're someone who bought a ticket, I really enjoyed watching him wrestle. Like he helped me forget about my day-to-day life and have a good time out at the matches. Um, but yeah, I hope I was a good guy to wrestle. I hope I was a good guy to have around and in the locker rooms. And I hope I was a guy that was like a positive and even if it's in a small way, like contributed to wrestling.
Yeah. Well, Mike, I want to thank you for doing this. Thank you for everything. We talk about impact. I remember at 12 years old being pumped to watch you, draw you that picture, and then all these years making that happen, man. Thank you for everything. You're still killing it.
Bro,
It's
it
insane.
means so much to me
Yeah.
that like you care enough to remember. So it rules, man. I'm really appreciative of you. I'm really happy for what you're doing. It
Thank you.
rules. Keep going, keep doing your thing, and you know, I hope that your platform keeps growing, and we'll get to touch base a little bit down the line as well.
For sure, dude. Part two down the line.
Yes, sir.
Let's do it. Thank you, Mike, for doing this, and thank you, everybody, for watching this episode. This was Best for Business.
Thank you for watching this episode of Best for Business. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, because this is Best for Business.